All right, I told you, quick break. We are back as George Mason and East Tennessee are both in the lobby. So I'm just going to ask them if they're ready to go, and we'll keep this night going. Because there isn't much of a background between these two teams when it comes to matchups that I know about. They could have played in something that I don't know. I think they competed in the same Monday Night Lights tournament I guess that was back in June, so not last month, but they did not play as they were on opposite sides of the bracket, and I will get their exact results from that MNL in just a second. Please enjoy a drift, doubling that ball mid for Landon. Okay, East Tennessee is off and rolling. Easy does it for them. And actually, scratch that, they did not play in the same Monday Night Lights tournament, so I'm mistaken about that. George Mason, last I saw of them, they were competing in my tournament last month, actually, in July. And I'll talk about George Mason in a second, because Skyline just hit a crazy double. The ETSU boys have come to play tonight. Oh my word. All right, well, let me talk about East Tennessee, and I won't bring up their Monday Night Lights tournament appearance because it's something I don't think they would like to remember. Okay, I thought George Mason was going to score right as I started talking about ETSU. But George Mason is going to score. I mean, I can't get a word out at the moment. We've seen 3 goals in the first 26 seconds. That's a clean shot from Dev. And just like that, George Mason have one back. I'm going to wait for this kickoff to happen to see if I actually can give you some background on this series, because Dev has agency now in the corner. That's a big dunk. Titanium, no second touch. Actually, the second touch mid. Landon is ready for it. Okay. Last time I saw George Mason, I'll give them first dibs because they scored last. They were competing in my Monday Night Lights tournament last month, and they made it on over to the grand finals. And for those not familiar, that tournament was an 8-team, invite-only, $60 tournament, winner-take-all. And George Mason, they beat Colorado in round 1, in game 5, mind you. And they beat Rochester Christian, a team that was twice a couple games away from qualifying for Summer Series over the summer. They beat them 4-1. And then they lost 4-1 to Radford in the grand finals. And Radford's a team to be reckoned with going forward. If you don't know, you're going to have to learn quickly because they will be on this stream at some point in the next month or so. I can almost guarantee you that. So, George Mason, solid roster. I was tentatively thinking that they might be the favorites in this series. But I have no idea, genuinely. This is fairly even. What's up, Shu? This absolutely is a matchup. Like, this is going to be high-flying from start to finish. It already is high-flying. It is going to remain so from start to finish. As East Tennessee, the reason they're actually competing tonight, actually there's a couple reasons. One, I love watching them play, and they're always down to compete in show matches as well. Like, they are awesome for that. George Mason as well, they are also always down. T-Han let me know that. Shout out to T-Han. But East Tennessee, they're always down to compete. And last week on Tuesday Night Lights, Auburn was set to compete against Purdue in our first best of 7 of the night. When I was messaged by Hums, their captain, he was like, hey, my third can't make it. I'm having trouble getting a roster together. And I was like, shoot, I'm not... Oh, a shot. That's an equalizer, actually. And I'll stop story time for just a second again. Skyline let that ball get a little bit too far out in front of him. And Landon almost got back to that. That would have been an impressive save off his own crossbar. But, anyway. East Tennessee is getting scored on again. 5 goals in the first half. It's not often I have long stories to tell about these teams. But when I do, I really prefer they don't put up 5 goals in the first half of game 1 of this series. The offenses are on fire tonight. My word. That's another... No, sorry, I'm not. Sure to get back in time. I got a little bit too antsy. Now it's another. Titanium is the benefactor of an insane skim off of Drift's Octane. That's just unfortunate, honestly. Easy pass for Titanium to put on target. So he will. George Mason have now strung together 4 goals in a row. East Tennessee, they came out of the gate swinging. Skyline had a banger of a double tap, as Titanium is now. 2 goals to his name, and East Tennessee really struggling at the moment, making defensive misreads left and right. George Mason on a tear. Mats, these are not technically viewer tournaments. They're collegiate tournaments first. But a lot of these guys are my viewers, if that makes sense. Alright, okay. Mason. They are killing East Tennessee now. This has been a completely flipped script. 6-2 with 2 minutes left. East Tennessee have time, but my, game 1 is a struggle bus all of a sudden for ETSU. But to talk about why East Tennessee is playing, Auburn didn't have a full roster, so I asked a Drift, who was online at the time, if he wouldn't mind subbing in for Auburn's roster. He was like, is this winnable? I said yes. I ended up not being so winnable like I thought. And so he was like, you owe me a Tuesday Night Lights appearance. So I thought, what better time than the present to get ETSU back on Tuesday Night Lights and competing in a show match against George Mason, who's a tough opponent. And they are flexing that status right now. That should be 7. Okay, it's not 7. Now it's a 3v1 the other way as Drift looking for Titanium. But Landon just fires an asteroid at the orange net to get ETSU back on the board. 69 miles per hour. Tucked that to bed underneath the crossbar. Didn't even need a Drift's help finding a demo out in front. And off kickoff. East Tennessee maybe had something going there for a second. And Tihan has used 2,000 Bepic points to take Shu out of here for 10 minutes. Sorry, Shu. It is simply business. Oh, but right before I timed Shu out, he gets the timeout Tihan pin. How about that for some clutch? And as their manager has been timed out, George Mason get a little bit of revenge as they put a 7th on the board and continue to seriously exploit East Tennessee's defensive gaps. Also, hi, Sarah. Thanks for popping in. I beat you to it. Sorry. I don't mean to do your job for you. I'll let you take it from here on out. 30 seconds left, though, and I actually might have some more time to do my mod duties, as I don't think East Tennessee is going to make this one happen. I'll be honest. I'm a big a fan as ETSU is the next guy. George Mason have this thing on lock. Hello. Selingi? Is that how you say it? Selingi? First time popping in. I appreciate it. I'm glad you're enjoying yourself. Hopefully you're not an ETSU fan. They got locked in game 1. 8-3 the final. And I think everybody but George Mason fans would like to move on quickly from that schmacking. Whatever adjective you want to use. Titanium dropped 10 shots and scored half of those. How did I miss that? I think I stopped looking at stats about halfway through that game when it got really bad. And I missed an 800-point game out of Titanium. So a 3-goal game is a hat trick. A 4-goal game I call a Texas-sized hat trick. What on earth is a 5-goal game? Is that like a North American-sized hat trick? Because Titanium dropped it. Shot 50% as well. Impressive start. Chaotic start for both sides. Double Texas. All right. You're the UPA college director? Oh, all right. Well, I appreciate you popping in. Always happy to meet directors and coaches in the scene. It's nice to have a network of everybody, stay connected. Because there really isn't a ton of, like, centrality to everyone that's out there trying to build an esports program at their respective school. Alright, game 2 though. Let's pop into this thing. And ETSU, they are just beginning of the game merchants, I suppose. That is a great opportunity. Double demo down the line for Landon. Get right back to it off the ceiling. Landon looking a little threatening in that Mustang. That's a nice beat by Jay though. George Mason trying to just play calm here in defense. Oh, 50 out of dev. Some titanium. He's got a little bit of boost here. Can he get back for the flip reset? No, it's just an extra little dink on target. The drift. Didn't allow the doink. Skyline now trying to chase down Titanium and steal some boost. They accomplished the latter, not the former. George Mason has flipped the field. Double commit though out of ETSU. It could spell some danger. Who's gonna get on this ball? George Mason will take it away from ETSU. They're making it look scary at times on the East Tennessee net. ETSU have found themselves a clear, shot on target, and that's an extended possession. Looking for more physical play as well. A lot of bumps and demo attempts out of that ETSU side. But George Mason is doing well to, if they aren't avoiding the bumps and demos, then to recover out of it. I think back to that Landon double demo that didn't result in a goal for East Tennessee. Drift now is an opportunity. Jay to this. No. Drift plays patiently. Corner and has a pass option taken out. And sets up Jay down the field. George Mason attack right down the throat of ETSU. Dev just playing with his food right there. Adrift, I mean, he's trying to rotate back post, but back post changed to near post, and then back to back post in the span of about 2 seconds. He gets involved in the play, and fortunately, kind of helps George Mason score the opening goal of game 2. Sidewall adrift again. Getting involved with the play while rotating back, but this time was a lot more helpful. Found a teammate instead of a George Mason player, but now it's just Dev in the area, forcing Skyline to miss, but they just took away Titanium's easy putback. George Mason spreading ETSU so thin when it comes to defensive resources and space. It's now difficult for them just to create a counterattack once they do find a clear. That's one beaten. Adrift was the second rotation for ETSU, and he was not quite as beaten. It was Landon that was up ahead. Adrift now has some space and some boost. Can maybe get East Tennessee playing offense again, but now it's George Mason throwing the physical Rocket League style right back in the face of ETSU. So many bumps and demos, just chipping away at those blue defensive lines. That's a miss now from Adrift. Landon's not back in time, neither is Skyline. Jay's there for the cleanup. Puts it perfectly top left corner. And George Mason are taking advantage of every single misstep that ETSU is putting forth in offense. Sorry, in defense. Tennessee, not afraid to play aggressive. They get to shy away from their play style. Just have to execute now in the final 80 seconds. Down a pair of goals. Skyline up a drift. Dev didn't buy in to the power that Skyline looked like he might get with that flip reset. Instead, played it low. Played a drift's ball. stop ETSU from setting themselves up in offense again. And now Dev again. Side taking a 50 with Landon, but still a lot of chance there. I think less patient players would have tried to fire a shot on target right there. There was a shooting lane, but it was all smoke and mirrors. George Mason would have gotten back in time. As per the usual, GMU is doing a phenomenal job of making sure there is nothing for East Tennessee to work with right now in offense. There might be possession and a little bit of room on the ball, but in reality, East Tennessee is not finding a thing with it. Shutout being pitched at the moment by George Mason. 6 shots allowed. 5 of those have been saved by GMU. And that's right, Landon needs to lock in. Gonna need something special out of the ETSU boys going forward. Part of me wants to worry about them, but if you watched our first series, you will know that a team not looking so good in the first couple of games of a best of 7 doesn't mean a thing. 2-0 the final. I think ETSU was a little bit robbed right there of it being 2-1, but no way. George Mason only had 3 shots that game. Are you kidding me? That is surprising. They had a lot of agency in offense, but I guess they weren't generating shots. Like, you would not, if I told you the shot tally was 8-3 right there, I bet the majority of you, if you saw the final score, would have thought George Mason had the 8 and ETSU. Heck, you just watched that game. Like, it felt like ETSU were held to 3 shots, where George Mason were the ones putting up numbers. But no, shooting 67% as a team right there. GMU looking good in game 2. Almost giving a goal up at the end, but apparently Landon's about to go crazy. So maybe that last little opportunity ETSU had is going to prop them up for game 3. But they need something now, lest they have to reverse sweep. And it's possible. We've seen it before on Tuesday Night Lights, Monday Night Lights, what have you. The Night Lights series. No one wants to do it. Though I know these ETSU boys, consummate showmen. Well, wouldn't put it past them. George Mason, though, is consistent and effective as ever. Starting off on the right foot here. That ball's been given to Adrift, though. Has one to beat, but Dev cuts off the play before it got too deadly, and then starts his own. Just a little touch, doesn't go much of anywhere. So Skyline carries the ball up. 50s through one. Drift next up, gets the ball mid. Landon shot. I don't know about Landon locking in, guys. That was an opportunity that he put well wide of the net. Tried to place it just a little bit too much. And George Mason's going to be all over that. Dev goes back wall, but Skyline is there. I switched out of the Fennec into the Octane. You must know something we don't. Skyline now, 1v2. 2 come out on top. Got credited with the save, but had some help from his friend. Still, though, East Tennessee doing a much better job right now controlling possession than they have in either of the opening 2 games of this best of 7. It looks much better. Maybe foregoing a bit of that aggressive, bump-heavy play style they were employing to start off this best of 7. Instead, being a bit more reserved at the midfield line. They will be forced to give up space now, however, as George Mason cleared the zone. Test that defense of East Tennessee. The test will be short-lived. Cleared found the other way. And Landon has switched out of the Mustang as well. So unfortunately, no more moon flicks. It means ETSU is feeling a bit more comfortable. I'm here for it. Landon off the back wall. Great with the pass as Jay is there. Titanium and Jay both doing battle in the corner. But Jay says, we're going this way now. Elects to back on up. Push that ball into the defensive zone and allow George Mason to try it again, man. They are just so good at playing reserved and patient Rocket League. If an offensive opportunity doesn't look good, if they don't think they'll be able to maintain possession, back pass, we'll just play it into our half. Set. It's one thing to look confident with double, triple flip resets or extremely mechanical plays, but confidence can show itself in different ways. How George Mason are just confident in themselves, starting in defense and building up a brand new attack. Got their yellow caps on now. This attack being instructed, but is torn down with a dynamite waiting to blow up. That is ETSU. Mason continue to put out those fuses that look to be starting to burn just a little bit. Landed again. Looking brilliant, but George Mason put it out for a second. Though Adrift finally gives us an explosion in the George Mason net. How much buzzing again? Thanks for the call. We'll get that sorted out now. Should be good here. If you are new to the stream, first of all, follow. Show some support to the Night Lights series and the high school showcase I run every Saturday as well. But also, if my audio feeds start getting buzzy, please let me know. Because it's a quick fix, but I'm not listening to my stream in my ear, so I don't know when it happens. It's not something I can prevent, sadly. So thank you, Bluekey. Thank you, Tetsu, for letting me know it's fixed as well. Corner. Drift fields the ball, finds Skyline, it looks mid again. Time it's landing though. Feeling the rock for a moment. ETSU trying to show the power of friendship and love to the world. George Mason the same, but to a much lower degree of success. That double commit in the midfield has given ETSU the ball now with 30 seconds left. We'll see if they can hold on to it. Half flipping and the race to the ball. Doink it. I'll take a page out of Zernite's book. Won't be able to put it on frame. George Mason still hunting for that equalizer in the final 15 seconds. Will have to start their next expedition into the ETSU half from their corner. They quickly get it down the field. They get it mid. Up is Jay for a shot, but down is the ball by way of East Tennessee. They take their first game of this best of 7. And they will make it a 2-1 series lead for George Mason. Still buzzing. Uh-oh. Hope it's not something that I don't know how to fix. We'll try it again. You can have a lovely look at the stats. All right, we'll try that now. But 10 shots to 3. Again, George Mason, a low shot quantity team. Those George Mason attacks can look lethal at times, so I'm not going to say low shot quality team. But the quality hurting them a bit in that last game. Held to no goals by an ETSU team that found themselves just a 1. And is the mic fixed? Are we good now? Or is it still buzzing? Lots of touch from Skyline. Sets up Landon to go low with the ball. And that is an explosion from the stick of dynamite team I know ETSU is. Brilliant pass. And it looks like, yep, Landon has in fact locked in. Dev, though, he's been a catalyst at times for George Mason. Couldn't get through Skyline and Titanium. Unsuccessful as well. Now it really feels like the momentum has shifted. It was an ETSU team that was really struggling to get out of their defensive half. And games 1 and 2 is now the one controlling the pace of play, and that is a horrendous bounce for George Mason. I feel for you there. go again in that orange half. George Mason trying to find a way out. But Jay has been beaten. Titanium is last man, has to come up big on the goal line. It's a fairly routine save for teams of this caliber, but regardless, one that needed to happen. And without a safety net as well. Ah, okay, the game audio is the one buzzing. How nice of OBS to double up on issues. There we go. That should fix it. And if that doesn't do it, maybe it's another unnamed audio source that'll help us later. Still, just the one goal from East Tennessee. These last couple of games, a far cry from the 11 goals we saw combined in Game 1. I mean, heck, George Mason scored 8 in Game 1, and since then, if you were to combine both teams' goals, we've seen half of that. Oh, okay, just a little bit more than half now. Titanium finds an answer for George Mason, and that is a dot from Dev. Ugh. I love those plays where you're watching the replay from the player's perspective, or heck, just the regular play from the player's perspective, and he lays out a pass to a teammate you can't see. And it sets up a goal that will be now added on to. Off kickoff, George Mason. We'll get another one back, sorry. I think things are set up for the next show match. But 2-1, George Mason out in front. And please enjoy the sights and sounds of East Tennessee versus George Mason for just a second, as I reply to a DM regarding the next series. So, one second. Making sure everything is good to go. Want to keep the night rolling as smoothly as possible. We should be, so. Look back at this one. Skyline has welcomed me back with some emphasis. Adrift missed the redirect that I think pushed Dev and Jay back. And then Skyline was given a little bit of room off that George Mason back wall to then put on a light show. 2-2. Great save, Titanium. Looking brilliant on the goal line. And again, Titanium's efforts needed for George Mason. One more time. Is he back? That's Jay this time. That puts the ball out to the side. Now Titanium's the one beating Skyline across the midfield line. Titanium. Low where Landon takes the ball away. Again, puts George Mason on their back foot for a moment, but does a much better job at mixing more and more clears into their defensive rotations and saves. Big dunk, Jay. Giving Dev an opportunity on that ball, but East Tennessee back in time. Titanium now. The flip reset that got 2 to jump for East Tennessee. That's how threatening it looked. The defense did prevail. Hey, Graydon. How you doing, my man? Congrats on the new job. I know I said it on Twitter, but congrats somewhat in person as well, as in person as Twitch streaming kits. Actually, that's not true. I've done plenty of lands and in-person streams, but you know what I'm saying. 60 seconds to go here. And this is a big game, especially for East Tennessee, who have now found themselves in a deficit thanks to a brilliant shot from Jay. He comes from underneath Titanium and put that ball to bed. East Tennessee, if they drop this, they'll have to make it 3 in a row to win this show match. They're capable of. George Mason have looked dominant at times tonight. Oh, and that could be 4. Devs put it in. Insurance taken out by George Mason. And this just might be their 3rd game. It's just so consistent from the GMU boys. When East Tennessee adjusted, when Landon and Skyline swapped their cars, GMU didn't blink but for more than a game. And that is a forgivable offense in a full best-of-7 series. Titanium's making 5 now. They'll go off the ceiling, looking for a double, but Landon saves it. Dev in the rebound position. Set up Jay for a slow roller. And all right, George Mason won't get one back, but they will secure game number 4. 4-2 the final. And they have yet to have a game win that is closer than 2 goals. 13 shots here. Made a comment on how they've been outshot frequently in the last several games, but they made it happen in terms of offensive production in that one. And Adrift held to 81 points as well is a telling stat line, as George Mason have held ETSU in check at times. I mean, Game 3 really is the only game, and maybe the first half of Game 4. It was ETSU flipping the momentum on them. But second half of Game 4, completely the other way. Landon looks to change that now. He centered the ball for a drift, but George Mason again at home on the back wall. Will defend nicely. Still down. They will defend. Titanium looks to break out. Jay's low on boost now. Take a look with Landon, and that buys time for Dev. I mean, the rotations of George Mason are so effective, especially in tight quarters like that. On their goal line, they're just buying time for the next guy, waiting for their moment to find a clearance. It's not a full clearance, it's more of a half a one. ETSU will try to take advantage of that. Enough to give themselves a shot at defending every play ETSU sends their way. Titanium just narrowly avoided death. Skyline was hunting him down. Now Skyline's turn again. Goes back walls, only one there to shoot. No, instead it's just Jay to place that ball out to the side. And Dev now looking good. Gets through 2, had 4 dots of boost in the tank, and still bested 2 ETSU defenders. That is wonderful. Not just car control, but knowledge of where his opponents were. Still, though, we get to see a goal. 2 minutes have come and gone in Game 5, and we have yet to see anyone on the board. Good chance at transition. Landon waits for a drift and the entirety of the George Mason roster. Jay, though, got a bit lucky there. Skyline kind of biffed that shot just a little bit. George Mason, more opportunities in offense. Well, that is just a singular opportunity that ETSU defend and spin right around. Oh, that's a good bump as well. I think Jay was getting a touch on that if Skyline doesn't take him out. Wonderfully executed counterattack. And East Tennessee will take first blood just around the halfway point of Game 5 here. A lot of up and downs here. Tennessee beneficiaries. But Dev has a chance to double this if a drift isn't good enough. And I don't think he was. Dev didn't get the chance to double it, but that touch was precarious at best. Put ETSU in a bad spot for a moment. They will find their way out. And Titanium put them right back into a bad spot. one goal here. This is manageable for George Mason, but the deeper we get into Game 5, the less they want to see ETSU getting going. So if we see the East Tennessee that we saw in Game 3, that I think had field domination on their side by about 65% to 35%, this game's over. East Tennessee at times find ways to keep George Mason at arm's length. And here, they continue to do so. Cut around from Dev, though, is nice. That demo is nicer. He's a 1v1 for Dev versus a Drift, but a Drift comes out on top. Gets the ball to Landon, who clears the zone completely. Puts ETSU in a position now to add to their lead. Landon is up. Bouncer of a shot. I think it was just a little bit off target. Put the ball center, though Skyline is taking a second to get up for that. Have to get his car all the way around. For George Mason, some space in offense. Back wall, not up for business though. Very much closed. ETSU still going to concede though. That was out of nowhere, it seemed. The ball was going left to right, corner to corner. ETSU had control, but what they did not have was the near post completely defended. Jay put on some stealth gear and infiltrated the ETSU ranks. We are tied up with 20 seconds to go. ETSU almost getting it back. But now Dev out in front. He's been the catalyst for GMU tonight offensively. Supposed to give the ball to Landon though. He's flexed his might at times. So overtime looking likely. Something crazy here on 0 seconds. The ball will stay up. But GMU looking to ground it. Actually unsuccessful. Skyline pops that for a Drift. Pops it for a Skyline with no boost. So Landon has to go up, and he says, yeah, enough of that. Overtime it is in Game 5. ETSU need this one. As one goal stands between them and dropping a Tuesday Night Lights series. I know they do not want to do. What can George Mason do, though, to get this series done with in 5? So far, so good. Good possession numbers, beginning of regulation, and now an opportunity for Titanium. That testing touch to the near post results in a successful test of Landon. Pass from ETSU will get them out of defense. An offensive rotation. But a Drift takes to the back wall of George Mason. Skyline trying to do the same, actually just ends up giving the ball to Dev, which his touch is what Titanium will extend further into ETSU territory. Once more, it's George Mason carrying the torch of offense. Drift alone. Low on boost and now floating. Still gets back to the ball and takes a challenge against George Mason. He still maintains control. Landon out to the side. Skyline just going to bang this down the field, but he's got 100 boost now fueled up in the corner. Dev on the near side does well to get the ball to Jay. And he read a Drift. Oh, he nearly did. Was trying to call game right there. Back right now. And demoed Titanium there. Didn't account for Jay, who's going to get back. Come off the back wall to let Titanium have access to that one. Back and forth we go. Such a wonderful ebb and flow East Tennessee and George Mason have going for us at the moment. I don't know who's going to come out on top of this. Could be TSU now, though, but Dev! That is not an easy read to make. He made it look so. He was cooking an OT. Low 50 gives Jay some space. A Drift will hop up early, but is still beaten by Jay out of the sidewall. A Drift. No boost. Tried to bump Titanium, but the sidewall is not on his side. Now a setup for Dev. Skyline first on the Tennessee putting out fires in defense. Good comp landed on the drift. They make it known to each other. The front man didn't have boost. TSU was rewarded with a clear for that communication. An opportunity to win it, but Skyline's opportunity is taken away. Maybe a drift can do a little bit better. No? Still, GMU players in the faces of East Tennessee here. Not letting them set up possession whatsoever. So that might do it. Titanium in the corner misses. He's got 100 boost though, and we know how far he can get with a full boost tank. Fortunately for George Mason though, East Tennessee, they're on the goal line. But now, not so much. Titanium though, couldn't get around for the shot. And George Mason will get possession. That could have been the series winner. Still could be. Dev called game, set, and match. What a shot from the midfield line. It was almost saved by Skyline, but had too much heat on it. And that's all she wrote. George Mason were challenged by East Tennessee, but that is as far as that went. Only one game given to their opponents. And it finally got super close there at the end. Their first one-goal game loss. No, sorry, their first one-goal game win was found in Game 5. There we go. We got there in the end. George Mason, the better of the two teams tonight. But East Tennessee did make it close. That first game, bit of a clown fiesta. Game 2, they were shut down. But Game 3 and beyond, it was a competitive set. George Mason, though, just so solid. It's unbelievable to me how consistent they are on the pitch. They're so patient and so machine-like at times. That's tough for a spontaneous team like East Tennessee, I think, to break through, which is what we saw in that best of 7. GG's, T-Han. Your boys look good. Sorry, Hooded. The Adrift powerhouse never arrived, sadly. He was held in check by George Mason. But, alright. I want to pop the schedule up real quick. I got a lot of messages to respond to, so I'm going to have to get to that in a second. Making sure everything's good to go for Bruton Parker versus Shawnee State, which is coming up in about 13 minutes time. Make sure you are in your seat or standing, but still watching the next show match up on Tuesday Night Lights number 2, as this is going to be a banger. Different variation of the Bruton Parker roster, but the same old Shawnee State. Should be a banger. And then Kennesaw State versus Clemson to round out the night. It's going to be a fun one. And I also want to show how spread out along the East we are tonight. Look at this. I'm still here. Hello. This is a map of all the teams competing tonight. And it really is an East Coast fiesta. All the way down from Florida up just north of Pittsburgh are our teams dispersed throughout the East Coast of the United States. I always forget to show that map, so I'm glad I got the chance to tonight. Next two up, the Ohio and one of the Georgia representatives, the southernmost Georgia representative in Bruton Parker against kind of the southernmost Ohio rep. I can't confirm that, but I'm pretty sure Shawnee State is the southernmost Ohio school. That's what it seems like. Oh, you are so welcome, T-Han. Thank you for competing. Your boys put on a show. Credit to them. But I do have to go to a quick break before the next show begins. It's going to be Bruton Parker and Shawnee State putting on a summer series showcase, but in about 10 minutes. So get your snacks, drinks, whatever you need to get ready for this next banger of a matchup in my prime time Tuesday Night Lights slot. Don't go too far.